Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Lifetime Legacy Lawyer podcast. I'm Thomas Vick, your co-host, joined by Seth Wilson. Seth, how's it going today?
Thomas, I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I am doing well. Today's Thursday afternoon. Week has gone well, and yesterday I did a seminar at the Johnson County Public Library. That was one of the blogs kind of advertising the event that was going to happen yesterday, and it was a great event that we had at the Johnson County Public Library, just around the corner from me, the White Township section of the library, and had a few people show up there and had a good time.
Awesome. Well, those events are so important. One, you're back in the community where your practice is, and so just being able to help provide information for members of the community, I think is so great. One of the things I often tell folks when we're consulting is you are a citizen of the great state of Indiana. These are your laws that you're entitled to, and we want to make sure that we're using them appropriately. And so I love the fact that you were able to get out and share a little bit about that to make those critical decisions with confidence.
Yeah, it's kind of a privilege to be able to be in the community and provide a service like that, provide some free information for folks and allow them to have the opportunity to ask questions. And it was kind of a smaller group yesterday. Only about 5 or 6 people were there. That's okay. So it was kind of a more intimate setting, and people felt comfortable to be able to ask questions and get some feedback and all of that. So it was good. I talked about estate planning essentials, something that we talk about nearly every week on the Lifetime Legacy Lawyer podcast. What kinds of things, what kind of documents do you need in order to have a comprehensive estate plan? What's kind of a basic level of an estate plan, and maybe what's some more advanced level estate planning that can have some great benefits to a family. So we talked about a lot of different aspects of estate planning, but one thing that was kind of neat was we had a man by the name of Jeff Mulma come in, and at the last seminar that I did, and you were in attendance for this, Jeff came up to me, and he's a nurse, and he talked to me a little bit about hospice care and his experience with that, his background in taking care of patients in their last days. So he was able to give some pretty good insight into the decision making as far as do I want nutrition and hydration when I'm at the end of life stage, or do I not want nutrition and hydration? And it was interesting to see his perspective and kind of hear from him how the body changes during that time in life and near death, and how even though you're doing nutrition and hydration, it actually may not be helping any because of the way that the body is changing. So it was interesting to see him give his seminar, or his portion of the seminar yesterday. And then I kind of did my regular spiel talking about last will and testament, powers of attorney, healthcare documents, trust, revocable trust, Medicaid asset protection trust, and all of that good stuff we talk about on a regular basis. So it was a good afternoon yesterday.
Oh, that's awesome. It's so interesting as part of our practices where we get to see the practical result of the plans that we've helped put in place. So when a living will needs to be utilized, you're talking about that kind of end stage decision making that happens. And how do you communicate your desires to your loved ones in that event, and working in connection with the medical professionals and the team that's supporting you, and often a very difficult time, right? That decision is not an easy one, and having the clear instructions and understanding of all of the sort of real world issues that folks are going to face is so valuable. So I'm sure even though maybe a small in number, I'm sure that was high impact for the folks who were there, and just some great information.
Appreciate that. Like I said, the that advertisement or will be showing up in people's inboxes a few days too late, but I'm sure there will be other opportunities for people to see you or to see me in person to be able to handle things and do a seminar. But as far as the blog digest is concerned, we've got some other topics that we can talk about. One of those topics is, how do I get a death certificate? Why is it important? And I'll kind of let you lead the charge on that one.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those topics you don't really want to think about because it's a certain reality that will set in at that time. And practically speaking, most of the time, the death certificate discussion is going to occur with the funeral home where the service is going to be. And the funeral home itself may be the one actually obtaining the death certificate for you, or copies of the death certificate. And so that's a lot of... Are you back on there?
I am back on.
There you go. Sorry, I lost you there for a second.
Sorry.
We're back connected. So what I was saying is that takes a lot of load off of the individuals involved in terms of having to actually go through the process or reach out to someone. So the funeral home will kind of serve as that intermediary to begin with. But it's a very important document because it confirms the passing of the individual and has the related information on the death certificate and is routinely utilized by beneficiary designated accounts all the way to a last will and testament or a living trust that, yes, indeed, the individual has passed on. So it's sort of that proof document that is needed to submit claim forms and begin the process of winding up the decedent's affairs.
Yeah, it's been a while since I have looked into how a death certificate is actually finalized, but there are like three or four different state agencies that are involved in finalizing that. And the funeral home is just the end recipient of that document, the death certificate, and they hand it off to the family. But you got like the coroner that's involved. You might have, you'll have the doctor involved, and there maybe one or two other state agencies that are involved, and so sometimes there are delays in getting the death certificate, and the funeral home is often the one that gets the front of, hey, where is the death certificate, when they don't have anything to do with the actual process of it. It might be stuck at the doctor's office, or it might be stuck at the coroner's office. Just a multitude of different ways that it could get hung up, and so it can take 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and sometimes it's even longer than that. Unfortunately, in unique cases, usually it's within 2 or 3 weeks, I would say, that you get the death certificate. But definitely understand that there's a process involved in getting the death certificate. You get it from the funeral home, but there are other people involved that could delay actually receiving it. So, anything else on the death certificates?
No, it's a topic we don't often think about, but kind of in connection with what we were talking about earlier, this is where the practical results of a lot of the planning that we are engaged in, this is where this starts. And so if you're going to open up an estate, you're going to need that document to help with part of that process, because it will be required by many of the financial institutions to submit claim forms or release funds that may be the decedent's.
Yep. We had a couple other topics that were sent out in the blogs. Most of them were Medicaid related. I don't think I want to spend too much time on it. One interesting one was, what's the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia, and then what are some different types of dementia, because dementia is kind of the all-encompassing word for a lot of different kinds of ailments as people age. And so that can draw people's attention to that. And then also there's one about Medicaid planning and how my office can assist Seth, you and I work together on Medicaid cases for those that are up in the Noblesville area, north side of Indianapolis. We kind of tag team on some Medicaid cases from time to time. And so those are a couple other topics, but a little bit light on our selection of topics this week.
Yeah, I did have one interesting thing that I read this week I wanted to throw your direction. And this is more, it's in process, so it's not like we're going to see this tomorrow necessarily. But my understanding is there's bills that have been presented in Congress, both in the House and the Senate, that are trying to revitalize the discussions around the change to the estate tax implications. And effectively, what's being proposed is utilizing a tax on an individual's estate if it reaches a certain threshold to help fund affordable housing initiatives in these bills. And so just a hallmark, I guess, or an indicator of sort of what's being thought about and being proposed as we think about the expiration of the exemption amounts coming up here in a year or so, that there are efforts underway currently to take some of those funds from the estates, again, at certain threshold levels, and reapply them elsewhere. And so just keep that in mind as you're thinking about your estate plan. And if you have questions about that, there, like I said, nothing imminent in terms of change, but just maybe a forecast of directions that are coming our way in the next couple of years.
Yes, the next year and a half are going to be very interesting from an estate planning perspective, because there will be changes. We don't know exactly what the changes are going to be. If nothing is done, then there'll be changes, and the sunset will occur, and then we've got a reduced exemption level for the estate tax, which would bring in a whole lot more families, married couples into the realm of needing to be concerned about the estate tax. And if something is done, then there'll be other things that estate planners will have to think about. Whether that's a higher exemption level or a lower exemption level. So definitely something to keep track of, and boy, what a political issue the estate tax is, and what to do with taxing those that are wealthy and all of that. Certainly a hot button issue in the political world, and really from an attorney's perspective, my opinion is just tell me what the rules are, and I'll work around them. Whatever you guys decide in Washington D.C., great, but for my practice, I just need to have some clarity on what the rules are going to be. And kind of related to that, I think about, are there going to be some major changes when it comes to welfare programs like Medicaid and Medicare? Are there is there going to be universal Medicare, and how is that going to impact long-term care planning? We have so many decades of practice in planning for Medicaid benefits, but if you undo that scheme of law, that's going to have a major ripple effect among my law practice and your law practice, I'm sure, and across the country. So these are things that we always got to keep tabs on for sure. But as attorneys, we want to know the rules when we can.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a good approach to think about. We can have opinions or preferences or whatever across that political spectrum, but really, unless you're involved in that process, there's not a whole lot I can do to control that. So if there is going to be a change or something, I want to know what it is. I want it to be as clear as possible so that we can adequately advise our clients on the options available. Going back to what I said earlier, it's your law. Let's make sure that you're applying it appropriately. And so once we know what those are, this one was kind of interesting to me because it was the first time that that I know of recently anyway, where we're taking those funds and actually supplying something else with that revenue, right? And so, again, you can have whatever opinion you want to have about that, but that's the proposal that's currently heading in a direction. Whether it'll get any traction, I don't know, but we'll be watching that with some interest.
Yeah, for sure. That is interesting. Well, Seth, how can people get in touch with you?
Well, I feel like I gave people more questions than answers today, so maybe if you need some of those questions answered, feel free to visit our website at noblesvilleattorney.com. How about you, Thomas?
The best way to get in touch with me is by going to vicklaw.org and click on Book a Call, vicklaw.org, and book a call. Well, I appreciate it, Seth. Always good to chat with you on the Lifetime Legacy Lawyer podcast. We'll talk to everybody later.
See you later, Thomas.